Hello, I'm Lynn and I have autism. On this channel I hope to talk about autism, topics surrounding autism and other topics of disability and history of disability, because it's my channel and I get to talk about whatever I want. In this video I hope to lay out the common signs and symptoms of autism as well as some basic interesting information about it. So let's get right to it. Autism, or autistic spectrum disorders, is a range of disorders that impact how a person communicates, behaves, and interacts with the world. Autism became better known to the scientific community in 1938 when Hans Asperger identified what would later be known as Asperger's syndrome, which is something I'll cover later on in the video. In 1943, Leo Kanner of Johns Hopkins. In 1943, Leo Kanner of Johns Hopkins Hospital in America did a study of 11 children and found that they all shared similar traits. He used the phrase autism in cases of patients that we had now considered schizophrenic, and the two disorders were not considered separate disorders until the publication of the DSM-3 in 1980. Kanner also formally diagnosed the first person to have what we'd now recognize as autism. Disorders that now fall under the category of being autistic spectrum disorder that previously might have been considered separate or completely entirely different disorders include Asperger's syndrome, pervasive developmental disorder not otherwise specified, or PDD-NOS. Both are put under the heading of autistic spectrum disorder in the DSM-5. Autism is characterized and based on the following symptoms and criteria: trouble with communication, processing difficulties, repetitive behavior. According to the World Health Organization, it's believed 1 in 600. The World Health Organization is believed. It's tough as I thought it would be. According to the World Health Organization, 1 in 160 children have autistic spectrum disorders, and it doesn't matter what gender or race or ethnicity you are. There's a possibility of it. It's just like how easily it'll be able to be diagnosed in your community. Basically, some statistics that are kind of interesting are that males are more likely to be diagnosed than females, to the tune of 4 to 5 boys to every girl, and that's all kettle of fish to do with socialization, which I do not have the energy to cover right now. Children of Hispanic and African American descent are less likely to be formally diagnosed than people of European descent. But it does not mean that they are less likely to have it. It just means they're more likely to be ignored. So the countries that are most likely to have an autistic diagnosis include Hong Kong, with 1 in every 27 children being diagnosed as being on the spectrum, South Korea with 1 in every 38, Japan with 1 in 55, and my own country of Ireland being 1 in 65, which seems oddly high for Ireland. Why Ireland? Delayed or full-on non-linguistic development in children with autism means they might have some issues with communication ranging from mild to very severe. This can be apparent from earliest infancy or might not be detected as far as adulthood. A baby with autism might not make eye contact with their caregiver or might not respond to their caregiver's words or actions. Children with autism may have issue with playing with other children, or playing games that are abstract like pretending games or games that don't have set rules. Some babies and young children with autism may have a linguistic delay and may not develop the neural pathways that make regular verbal communication possible. They may not meet common milestones that are expected of a baby's development, such as learning to respond to their name or saying basic baby talk words like mama and dada. By the age of 4 or 5, if a child hasn't developed these communication skills, then it's going to be tougher along the way for them to do so. Now, 40% of people with autism are considered nonverbal. That means they're unable to communicate using words or speech. They may later on be able to learn how to communicate using text-to-speech software or sign language, or even picking up words that are relevant to them or their caregivers can interpret. Just because a person with autism cannot speak does not mean they can't be listened to. On the other side of the spectrum, some children with autism may have no language delay and might have a full Some children with autism may have no linguistic delay and might be able to speak normally, as people would say. In these cases, the traits involving communication issues associated with autism may not become visible till late childhood and teens. This is an issue as early detection of autism may mean that individual caregivers can find the way of helping develop their linguistic skills, as well as their interpersonal skills. Misdiagnoses, or just straight up non-diagnoses, might impact how the person accesses healthcare and services and support that they might need later on. Side note, previously the term Asperger syndrome usually referred to a child with autism who did not experience linguistic issues in their early developmental years. As mentioned, this has changed in DSM-5 to put it under autistic spectrum disorders. However, people diagnosed as having Asperger's may still refer to themselves as Aspies. I might, because I'm diagnosed with Asperger syndrome. I just don't, because it's... Person with autism may not be able to pick up subtext in a conversation or not be able to read the room. Those who are verbal may have issues saying things that are considered appropriate or polite and may introduce things that might be construed as being tone deaf. Such things can include brutal honesty, a total inability to lie, and keeping the volume of their voice at an appropriate level. A common trait in people with autism is an atypical tone of voice, which can range from robotic and monotonous to simply having odd inflections and weird ways of emphasizing the words, which I'm sure you've probably picked up on from me so far. It can be considered annoying, and by the people listening to them, since a person with autism might repeat certain words or phrases over and over and have other little verbal tics. A trait also found in people with autism is an accent that is unusual compared to the accent of those around them. Another communication issue a person with autism might have stems from facial expressions. They might not be able to accurately read another person's facial expression and therefore not be able to understand how the other person's feeling literally at face value. Expression that might convey sadness or anger may not be picked up by the person with autism and therefore not focused on. A person with autism also may have limited facial expressions themselves and won't externally show what they're actually feeling. That may unease people who don't have autism who are unfamiliar with the individual. Body language and other non-verbal social cues might be amiss with the person with autism or ignored. As I hope to get across with this whole YouTube channel thing, every person with autism is an individual and all their traits are going to be different severities, or they might not have this certain trait at all. For example, some people with autism might have very animated facial expressions and might be able to pick up on some facial expressions. A person with autism might find it hard to pick up on social cues and might find ways that people are behaving to be illogical or annoying. They might not follow social constructs and social norms as other people might. A notable example of this is how many people on the autistic spectrum also ID as being a member of the LGBTQIA+ community, which is another topic for another day. Other things a person with autism might find tricky is knowing when to start and stop a conversation or keeping it going, how to introduce themselves, and what might be considered polite. A person with autism may abruptly end a conversation or completely derail it by bringing up a completely new topic. They might speak over others or speak for longer than necessary, which is why I'm 12 minutes into recording this one section. With regards to processing issues, a person with autism might have an intense reaction to the sensory information that they take in, such as sounds, colors, smells, or touch. The reactions to these different forms of outward stimuli can range from incredibly positive to incredibly negative. A person with autism may not like overly bright lights or loud music, maybe certain sounds make them happy, or maybe they dislike a specific scent or taste. Stimming, from the word stimuli, is acting in a physical way to sensory information that a person takes in. A person with autism may stim in positive or negative scenarios. Each person with autism stims in their own way and can be used as a coping mechanism or an almost unconscious response. Being overwhelmed by external stimuli, which they perceive as negative, can cause them to stim in harmful ways, including biting, scratching, or picking at their skin. Continued stress may lead to them having an autistic meltdown, which includes extremes in temperament, physical reactivity, and vocal distress. Due to issues in communication, a person with autism might not be able to put into their words what's causing them this distress and therefore might be distressing to both them and the people around them. Or on the opposite, a person with autism is delighted by their surroundings, may react in physical ways to show that they're happy with the stimulation that's been given to them. Happy stimming can include flapping their hands, rocking back and forth, humming, and tapping their feet, amongst others. Due to these processing issues, a person with autism might have a strict diet or certain foods that they will not eat, which is something that non-autistic people have. Everyone has foods that they won't eat, and people that are picky eaters, it's one of those things. But an estimated 3/4 of people with autism have some form of dietary restrictions due to processing issues. A person with autism will be more rigid what they eat, to the extent of eating only certain things and in certain situations. It might be something as specific as not eating foods of a certain color, or refusing to eat food that touches on a plate. Caregivers of a child with autism might find this annoying and see that it requires a great deal of trial and error. It might be a bit frustrating. A person with autism might find an area of interest to them that they will latch onto and focus on to probably expert degree. This can be any topic. Famously, math and science are topics that people with autism may fixate on. But there's so much more to that people with autism can love, just like any other person. It could be music, acting, video games, cooking, anything. Although technically everything has to do with maths and science when you think about it, but you get my point. A person with autism with the right resources and links might even be able to turn their hyperfixation into a career or work into their livelihood. The idea of an autistic person being smarter than your average non-autistic person to point superhuman abilities is an incorrect one. Due to their hyperfixations, a person with autism may be perceived as being unusually smart or skilled, while 0.5% to 1% of people with autism do have savant syndrome, which is seen in media such as The Rain Man and The Good Doctor. Around half of people with autism have a learning disability of some sort, including dyslexia, dyscalculia, and dyspraxia. An IQ of less than 70 has been found in around 40% of those with autism. Sometimes autism will be linked to other disorders or illnesses. Now, every person with these issues will be autistic and vice versa, but there is a notable overlap. An example is autism and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, with up to 80% of children with autism meeting the same criteria for ADHD. People with autism are more likely to suffer from epilepsy or seizures. People with autism are more likely to suffer from gastrointestinal issues than non-autistic people. People with autism are more likely to have muscular issues, including hypertonia of the muscles, low muscle tone, which can impact how they walk, which might give an autistic person a strange form of walking or running. Are there more people with autism now? Probably no. No, I wouldn't say so. There have always been autistic people around, probably since the days of the cavemen. While people are more likely to be diagnosed with autism now than they would have been previously, that does not mean that there's more autistic people. That just means that the criteria has changed, or that people know how to spot it. The increase of autistic diagnoses should not be viewed as a negative thing. It should be viewed as a positive thing. It should be seen as the world adapting to the people that live in it, who happen to be autistic. High functioning versus low functioning. What's the difference? There isn't any. Each person with autism is going to have separate traits, and each of those traits are going to be more severe or maybe less notable. Just because one person with autism cannot speak or another person cannot read facial expressions does not mean that their autism isn't as harsh as it is to someone who can read facial expressions and can speak. Every person with autism is their own person, and therefore their experiences should not be discounted just because they don't fit a mold of what society expects them to. What causes autism? We don't know. We don't know what causes autism yet. But what I can tell you for certain, vaccines don't cause autism. And I am not going to kick that hornet's nest. I am Nin, I have autism, and this has been my first YouTube video. This is harder than I thought it would be, but I'm still hoping that I manage to keep this going on further, and I hope to do more videos about the history of disability, because I like history, and about disability in history, because there's so much history that's been forgotten or hidden that needs to be looked at. So like, comment, and subscribe, and whatever else you're supposed to do, because why not? Yeah, 2021, let's have fun. All right, thank you.